Welcome to the Waterfowl Den. My name is RD Reynolds, and I want to welcome you to the YouTube Live and the podcast. So, if you streaming this on any of the streaming apps, go check out RD Reynolds Outdoors on YouTube. And if you're watching this on YouTube, go subscribe to RD Reynolds Outdoor on any place that you stream podcasts. Today, our episode is brought to you by Matthew Knight with Satura Investors out of Charlotte. There's the information. The link to his website is scrolling across the banner down at the bottom, and it's also in the description. Today's episode is about helping business owners and working professionals like you who share a passion for the outdoors, shooting sports, zeroing them in to their long-term financial goals. So if you need any information or contact or any other questions, contact Matthew. Also, new to the channel, Kicks Industries, most people would know them as Kick Chotes, has partnered up with the channel. I am doing a series right now on Kick's butt chokes. I got a ton of ammunition, shotgun shells that I am testing from 2-inch, 3-inch, 3.5, different brands of ammunition, different chokes out of different guns. Go check that out. There's other choke related episodes also on the channel. But I appreciate y'all tuning in. And today, let's get started. Welcome, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. So today, I have Chris with me from Duck Creek Custom Calls. So welcome to the channel, Chris.
Pleasure to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Man, it's a hot one today, ain't it?
Yes, sir. It's a little warm outside, but not as bad as it was last week.
So who is Chris? And some people might call him Riggs. So who is Chris Riggs? Who are you?
I'm just a simple old country boy that spent most of his life in the woods hunting and fishing. Uh, just like I said, simple old country boy. Killed my first duck when I was 8 years.
Out of what state?
From Georgia.
Georgia.
I'm
I think a lot of them.
Father of 4. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I think there's a lot of hunting people down in Georgia. So there's a lot of calls and a lot of choke manufacturers in Georgia. So they must have something going on down there in the big state of Georgia.
Well, we were all raised to hunt and fish over here. And we all just love the outdoors. Spend most of our time doing it.
I cut you off. What were you finishing? You said you're a father of how many?
Of 4.
Woo. Any help from the people that's raising them now? I got 2. I don't know how you do 4.
Well, 3 are grown and on their own, and we still got one 12-year-old at home. So it's all kind of slowed down a lot for us.
So what's some history behind? I'm sorry, there is a little delay. But so what's the history of Chris? What's some history of hunting and background of Chris before we get into the history side of the calls? And when the calls are named Duck Creek, you do more than duck calls. So we'll talk about the history of that. But what's some history behind Chris?
I started duck hunting when I was 8 years old. I killed my first duck when I was 8. I did life. I love being in wild places. I love sitting watching, hunting and fishing. And
what was the first duck?
I the Marine Corps, spent some time with serving my country, and just when I come back home, I started, picked up where I left off, back hunting, fishing my uncles, and one of my neighbors, Mr. Don Crawford, as a kid growing up, hunting, fishing, something. Every Saturday morning, he took us me and my brother somewhere hunting and fishing.
That sounds like you're living the life. Your video broke up on you there. You might pick up a little bit better signal if you turn your video off. We can just listen to your voice anyway. So I lost him. Maybe he'll come back. So while we wait on him to join the podcast and YouTube live, it'd be a great opportunity to tell everybody to go check out the website so they can get some merch. These lives are new, so let everybody, your friends know. Share the podcast. The YouTube channel is still growing, so we're trying to make it better. I hope y'all enjoy these lives. This deer season is going, I hope, to be 10 times better than it was last year. And you're going to say, RD, you didn't post no videos from last year. So I have nothing but upgrades. All right, so he got it back there. We lost you there for a minute. Can you maybe
in or you're in or what? Everything cut off.
Yeah, you're choppy a little bit. Can you tell it to turn off your video? Just video.
Yeah, I don't.
Let's see if that'll help. See if we can just listen to you.
So I guess we're back. I don't know.
Yeah, we're back. So I heard at the very end part of it, you served in. I heard something and then it cut out. So you served in the what forces?
I joined the Marine Corps when I was in high school. I went off and served my country for a while, and I come back and went right back to hunting and fishing.
Wow. Well, I appreciate it from your service,
I love
and
my kids.
I'm sure everybody tuning in will say appreciate the service.
But, all of my kids love to hunt and fish. It's always been a jockey of which one of them was going with me and who was going with their mama and stuff like that. And I've always put my kids and my wife and my God first. So
that's how you do it. That's how it's supposed to be done. So tell us some history behind Duck Creek calls. How did that get started?
Well, I never thought the calls I bought, the cheap plastic calls you bought for $20, $30, sounded to me like what I was hearing ducks and deer sound like. And I always played with them, tinkered with them, and this, that, and the other. And, just was constantly hunting for the sound that I thought I was hearing. And so my wife, when we first started dating, she bought me a RNT duck call, one that acrylic daisy cutter for our first Christmas together. And at the time, I was raising mallard ducks, and I would have upwards of 400 or 500 at a time. And they never would talk back to the cheap plastic duck calls, and I always wrote it off as they're just pen-raised ducks, so they're not going to talk to these plastic calls. Well, she bought me that R&T duck call, and I went out in the yard, and I went to wailing on it and put it through his paces, and all of those ducks just lit up and went to talking back to me. And I thought then, hey, I was right. My whole life, I've been right. Those cheap plastic calls don't sound like they're supposed to. So I'm going to learn how to do this. So I figured it out, started making calls, and I post a picture of every one I made on Facebook. And this guy kept commenting on, good looking call, that's great work, this, that, and the other. And I didn't know the man. So I went and looked him up, and it's Chad Lloyd. He owns Arkansas County Guide Service in Stuttgart, Arkansas. So I said, hey man, why don't you give me your address? I'll send you a bunch of calls. You use them, abuse them, and give me honest feedback. Would you do that for me? And he said, sure. So I sent them to him. A couple months went by. He called me and says, hey, I got good news and bad news. I said, okay, give it to me. And he said, well, I took your duck calls down to R&T, and I put them in Butch Richenbach's hands. And I said, what did Mr. Butch say? You need to quit while you're ahead? And he said, no, Butch said your sound is spot on. You're right there where you need to be. You just need to make your lip rest more comfortable. It's got a sharp edge, and you need to clean your cork notch up. It's a little jagged. I said, that's all he said. And he said, yeah, you were right there where you needed to be. Just keep doing what you're doing. So Chad invited me to come out to Arkansas and go duck hunting with him. Stay at his house and go duck hunting for a day or two. So I went out there, and I met Roland Cortez, and he's called in a lot of competitions, and he was an awesome guide and duck caller. Roland blew all my duck calls. He laid one to the side, and he said, that's the one. You need to have it mapped, get a jig made, and that's what you need to do. And he said, but I got to go blow routines for the World Duck Calling Championship next weekend. How about you ride with me, and I'll take you down there and introduce you to Mr. Butch. So I went with him to R&T, introduced me to Butch. Butch gave me a few pointers about certain things. He agreed with Roland that particular duck call, I needed to map it out and have a jig made to it. And so I did. And Butch told me, experiment with different reed lengths, different widths of reeds. He said, but you're in the ballpark. You're spot on with your sound. And he gave me advice on how to make them louder, how to put more rasp into them and different things. And so that's what I did. I come home and I took Butch's advice, made a jig to it. And I'm sitting here right now. I'm still looking at that original duck call from 20 years ago.
That was what I was fixing to ask. How long ago was that? Because you said you was posting it online, so I knew it had to be after at least the internet started. So,
yeah.
So you still have it?
Yeah, it's right here.
The original one.
That's the original. It's got a different barrel, but that's the original insert.
You still take it with you, or you kind of keep it where you don't want to lose it?
It's on my lanyard. She goes with me everywhere I go.
That's pretty awesome.
I mean, honest to God, I couldn't leave old girl home if I had to. She's been good to me forever and a day.
Wow.
I've traveled all over to Arkansas a lot. Used to be in a duck club out there, and then started going to Oklahoma and duck hunting. And then the grunt calls, I used to make grunt calls with that cheap plastic tube on them.
Right.
And they just didn't sound right. They didn't sound like what I thought they were supposed to sound like. So then my cousin calls me one day, and he owns a logging company, Thick Pin Timber Products. And he calls me one day, he says, hey, I just dug up 2 black walnut root balls with the backhoe, and I'm going to bring them to you, and I want you to use it to make calls out of it. I said, well, Bill, I'm not home. He said, well, guess what? I just dumped them in your yard. And he told me where he put them at and all. And then Bill says, I want you to go and make me a grunt call, but I don't want that plastic on it. I want it to be all wood. So I did it. It took me a couple of weeks to figure out how to do it, and I applied everything Butch had taught me about duck calls to grunt calls. And as soon as I put the reeds in it and started tuning, it was like poof, a light bulb went off. That's it. That's the sound I've been hunting for. That plastic rattle's gone. So I've made all wood grunt calls. They're all one piece ever since then. And
So,
then,
did you already
well,
have a lathe at that time, or
yeah,
so were
when I
you already
decided,
doing stuff with wood? I mean, it ain't like normal people would have that in their backyard. So you must have had some kind of acknowledgement.
well, I was always building stuff. I already had a shop, and I bought the lathe once I decided to start making duck calls and trying to learn how to do that. And since that time, I've upgraded different lathes several times. And then, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago, some guy mailed me some mesquite wood from Texas. I wish I could remember the man's name. I wish I'd have kept his phone number, but I didn't. And I made a little video of me blowing the grunt call and sent it to him. And it stayed on my phone for months. And just one day I decided to post it on Facebook. And it wasn't 5 minutes later, this man calls me from Texas. And I thought, well, that's the same guy. I answered the phone, and it wasn't. It was Rob Hughes. And he started telling me that he knows Dr. James Kroll, Dr. Deere, Gordon Whittington, Ted Nugent, and all these people. I'm like, this dude's full of crap. He don't know all these people. But he wanted to do the same thing. He wanted to send me mesquite wood from the Bar J Ranch that he manages and have me make 3 grunt calls for Christmas presents. One for Dr. Deere, one for Ted Nugent, and one for Gordon Whittington, the owner of North American Whitetail. So I did it, and I didn't think nothing of would ever become of it. And then, I don't know, the next season of North American Whitetail, my buddy calls me and says, hey, man, you got to turn the TV on now. It's like, why? He said, Dr. Deere's on TV with your grunt call. I said, no way. So I go and turn the TV on. Sure enough, there's Dr. Deere with my grunt call on North American Whitetail, that mesquite wood grunt call. I was like, man, this is crazy. I designed something that's being used by a world famous deer biologist, and it sounds like I thought it was supposed to, like I thought it was supposed to sound as being used by him. And
That's pretty amazing.
And, I've kind of laid off advertising the duck calls because of the meteoric rise of my grunt calls, but the duck calls still sell just as well or better than the grunt calls do.
Your buddy Jay is in the comments. He just popped in and he said, "What's up?" So this is not a it is a full-time job probably for you, but it's not your full-time job, is it?
No, sir. I work full-time at Plant Vogtle nuclear power plant.
I got you.
Work swing shift, so pretty much all of my off time is spent out here in the shop, except when I do stuff with the kids. I've always made it a point that I work in the shop till 5:30, 6 o'clock, and shut it down. Go in the house, spend time with my wife and kids, because they've supported me through all this, and I'm not going to turn my attention away from them, because if this shop burns down or the call business turns belly up tomorrow, my wife and kids are still going to be my wife and kids.
That's right.
And that's the most important thing.
So how many calls you think you done made over the years, duck and deer?
Oh my God. Thousands.
Wow.
Really,
Where's I know we talked about some people that have got them in their hands, big time name people. What's some of the places that they're ended up state-wise?
Well, I know 3 went to Florida. I got a bunch of friends in Florida's got them. There's a bunch of people in South Carolina. I've mailed duck calls to Delaware. 2 guides from Maine bought them last year. I just mailed 5 today going to Mexico. I've got a friend of mine owns a place in Saskatchewan. They've sent them up. He's taking them up there and giving them to people. So I think I've got grunt calls or duck calls in every state except maybe Hawaii and Alaska, Mexico,
That's pretty amazing.
Canada.
And I'm sure social media and the internet now is probably picking up on your
Oh
business
yeah, I
too.
mean that's but the fact of it is you can sit here and show people pictures all day long of calls on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, or whatever, and most people will click like, say, yeah, that's beautiful, this, that, and the other, but until they actually see it and hold it in their hands, people really don't know how good they look and how they sound.
So while you mentioned that, so let me pull that up. I'll pull that up. Look like they changed some of the settings here. Well, while I look to pull that screen up, not me. Y'all don't want to look at me. Um, they changed my button on me here. I'm going
It's
to try to
all
pull up. It's always something. Always an update when you go to look for something that's gone. So
yeah.
let's see here.
The most aggravating part of it is it's there.
Yeah,
You used it before, and then you can't get it right this when you need it.
I see it now. All right, so I'm going to share on the screen here. I'm going to pull up your website, and you talking about people seeing your calls and stuff like that. So let's pull up the website here. So here's the website, and it's duckcreekcc.com. So you should be able to see it on your screen now. So here's some of the grunt calls that you have.
Right.
Is there a particular? Are they all the same design, just different woods, different
They're all
colors?
different in different colors. They're all the same basic design. There
Uh
might
huh.
be a slight difference from one to the other because they're all handmade. I can't 100% every one of them to look exactly the same.
Do they all sound the same though?
Yes, they all sound the same. They all sound just like a dominant buck.
I mean, I love the background pictures. I mean, there's some really pretty calls in there when you go through it. And you were saying earlier, uh, until the people see it in their hands, and I saw where people, and we'll talk about the show later. But you went to an event this weekend, and I saw on Instagram where
Yeah,
ladies were talking about your call, and I probably could pull that up on the website here. But you offer a particular call just for the ladies, right? Right
yeah.
there.
The
And I
Miss
saw a
Deer
woman
front
talking
call.
about it. She was talking
That's
about
got
it.
that page has got a history behind it. In the last 5 years, I've got to be pretty good friends with Dr. Deer. I
Uh
go
huh.
every spring. In March, he has a field day at his research facility. So I go a week ahead of time and I help him get set up for it. Well, his wife, Miss Susie Kroll, has treated me like family ever since the first time I met her. Just super sweet lady. They pay for my motel room. They pay me. They never. You can't buy a meal in Texas. They always got to pay for it. They will not hear no other. So I noticed that, and me and Rob were talking about it, that all of Miss Susie's tools she paints pink, so Doc don't touch them. So Dr. Deer knows that those are his wife's tools. Don't touch. And Miss Susie hunts a lot with Doc, and she doesn't want to be. She isn't on a TV show or nothing like that, but she loves the outdoors, same as her husband. And the tag on the back of her car has Miss Deer on it. It's a custom tag, says Miss Deer. So I come home and I experimented until I figured out how to make one dye and stabilize one pink, and I wrote down the side of it, made for Susie Kroll, in parentheses, Miss Deer.
I'm
And
sure she
I
liked that.
decided, oh, she called me squalling, having a fit, how much she loved it. So I decided to make a page for the women's crunk calls. and I named it Miss Deer after Miss Susie Kroll. And then I put the backdrop of my youngest daughter with the first buck she killed last year.
Women hunting is starting to take off tremendously. So
Yes,
kudos to kudos for jumping on that bandwagon, because women definitely want some of their own stuff. So, and I saw that being shared a lot on Instagram.
Yeah.
Talking about, ladies, go get your pink calls. Like I said, that's on my list to talk about as an event. So here's the tab on duck calls. Is that the same design as your old girl on your call?
Every one of them looks a little different as far as design, but they're all cut off the same jig as old girl. So they all sound pretty close to the same, but some's wood, some acrylic, and I try to change. Well, I really try to change the shape. It's just the way it works out. I might make 4 or 5 today, and then next time I come out here and start making one, my shape might be a little different than the 4 or 5 I made last time. Right. And it's not that I'm really trying, it's just the way it works out with that wood or acrylic. I may get a little overzealous and cut a little bit more off of this one than I do the next one, or vice versa.
So I see this one here. Are they all single reed, or are you making some double reed? Or this one says sleeved single reed. Is that just the way it's typed, or is that one something different than?
Well, it's got a clear acrylic sleeve inside of the insert. And that's what it means. And they're all single reeds. I'll make a double reed. So if you call an order or ask me for a duck call and say, hey, I'm going to buy such and such duck call, like the one you got showed up right now, I can't really read it to see which one it is.
Brown marsh, clear acrylic.
So if you order brown marsh clear acrylic, and you call me and say, hey, I want this duck call, but I want it to be a double reed, I'll go get it out of the storage building, come out here and sit down in the shop and retune it and put a second reed in it for you. But for the most part, I strictly make single reeds, because in my mind, you can do everything with a single reed. You can hit all the high notes with that single reed that you can't hit with a double. And then, as far as I know, I don't think that second reed does anything but as a shock absorber for the first reed. I honestly don't believe it makes any sound whatsoever.
Well, I've only been duck hunting for 4 years, so I'm still trying to master the duck call. I need a duck calling 101 class, because that I can quack, but getting that cadence, I hit it one time and then it just goes downhill. But I can call a goose and use a goose call, but a duck call, I struggle. Now the whistle, the 6-in-1 whistle, the Drake, mallard, I could do that. The pintails, the wood duck, all the easy ones I got. But that whack whack whack, it don't sound like whack whack whack.
Well, we'll have to get a time where we both can sit down. I'll school you on it. But if you look in that backdrop picture,
right
to the left on my screen, that's my middle daughter, Bethany.
Let's see. I pulled up the picture there. I pulled up the picture. I just did it in the background.
At the time, she was like 14 or 15 years old.
Right.
Bethany traveled with me all over the world duck hunting. She's been to Oklahoma, Arkansas. She killed her first duck in Stuttgart, Arkansas, standing beside an oak tree in the Biomeda with Clifford Fisher.
Wow.
And if you read the history of a cut down duck call, everybody credits Lester Cat for being the first to cut down a PSO. Well, Clifford Fisher got it for Mr. Lester for 20 plus years.
Wow.
And I've sat and watched Clifford cut down PSOs. As a matter of fact, I've got one. I got two right here. One's cut by Kurt McCullough, and one's cut by Clifford Fisher.
So where's that picture at?
Those are not on the website.
No. Where's this picture of the background at? Look like y'all in a swamp
That's us
or
in the
marsh.
swamp. That's my daughter Bethany beside me, then me, my chocolate lab Kane, Elliot Robertson, and my best friend Ren Elliott on the far end.
I got you. It broke up a little bit right when I think I talked over you. But where'd you say that was?
That was in Arkansas.
Okay.
That was on Clifford Fisher's place. We had actually just went out there to take that picture in Clifford's flooded timber behind his house.
Wouldn't that be nice just to have in your backyard?
Well, I mean, he's pretty slick. Clifford's got probably 300 or 400 acres in
Wow.
DeWitt, Arkansas, and Abernathy Reservoir is behind his place. It's actually on a different landowner's property, but the creek from Abernathy Reservoir flows through Clifford's place. So, and it goes under the highway right below his house. So every fall, he just goes down and lays a sheet of plywood across the sewer pipe and floods it back through his woods about knee deep, all through his cow pasture and his woods. And we sit on his porch and just watch the ducks and see where they're wanting to work. And then the next morning, that's where we hunt.
Wow. That's pretty cool. So let me go back to your grunt calls here. So I didn't pull them up very long before I switched topics on you. But how many do you keep in stock regularly, and then how often are you turning?
Right now I'm making grunt calls every day.
And I know you went to the show, so I guess we could start talking about this event. So where did you go this past weekend?
I went to the Buckmaster show in Montgomery, Alabama.
How was it?
It was great. I mean, I sold a pile of calls. I took 100 wood duck calls and sold 80 of them.
Wow.
And
Just wood duck calls.
They're little shotgun shell wood duck calls.
Right, and I seen them on. While you got that in your hand, I'll go ahead and pull that up too, because I saw that, and that actually looks like you took a shell off.
Well, it is
the brass off
the plastic and turned the wood down to fit inside of it and glued it up.
Right.
And then turn it to shape. And it's got a little JC Reed inside of it. But as far as the show went, man, it was great. I met a lot of interesting people that I didn't know. I met Robert Arrington, Deer Meat for Dinner on YouTube. And he's got like 3 million followers on YouTube. Super cool guy. Met his cameraman, his wife, both of his daughters. And then I also met the guys from Seek One on YouTube. They deer hunt in suburban Atlanta and people's backyards and kill 180-inch deer.
Really? We call them city deers around here. We got a bunch of city deers too, and they're not scared. I mean, you see some massive deers in our city.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So when you saying that, I'd 100% believe it.
Well, I mean, you can go watch them on YouTube, Seek One, and they've been killing deer for several years. So I met them, talked to them. I put grunt calls in each one of their hands. I put duck calls and grunt calls in Robert Arrington's hands. So, and then I met Jackie Bushman.
So I got your Instagram pulled up here. So this is probably wants me to log in.
Yeah, that's Deer Meat for Dinner.
Let's see if it won't let me pull it up without logging in. So let me log in to Instagram real quick.
Right.
So I can make it bigger. So there's one of the guys you were talking about.
Yeah, that's Robert Arrington, Deer Meat for Dinner.
So he is now a owner of one of your grunt calls, huh?
Yep. I made that grunt call just to give to him because I knew he was going to be at that show. And as soon as he opened the box, his eyes lit up and he said, "You got to be kidding me." I said, "No, that's yours." He blew it twice and hung it around his neck. And he just went on and on about how much he loved it, the sound, how great it looked. And then his
That's
camera.
when you know you feel it down inside you that you actually making a difference. You know, sometimes I wonder the
Yeah.
same thing on my YouTube channel, but like, is it making any difference? And then you see somebody comment of, "Hey, I appreciate that video," or "I appreciate how you showed me how to
Yeah.
do this," and it's like, yeah, that's the reason.
Yeah. I mean, I can't explain to you when you're at one of these shows and somebody, you just happen to look up and two guys are coming around the corner and one of them elbows the other one and says, "That's the man you need to go talk to. That's where I got that grunt call from, or I got that duck call from." And they come straight over there, shake your hand, show you pictures of the deer or the ducks they killed with your call last year. I mean, you can't put a price tag on that. That's just like the greatest feeling in the world.
I can only imagine. I know how you feel because when you're making memories, but in return, them memories are also making memories for you.
Yeah.
Because
And
when
people
somebody
tag
shoots
me.
something, when they get a certain bird or a certain deer that they've been chasing, you know,
Yeah.
that
I mean,
means
it
something.
almost
And
feels like it kind of connects me with them. I feel like when I see the pictures, the success pictures, I feel like, I was a part of this.
right.
I helped them do that in a way. And it
And
just,
you know,
it makes me proud.
it would be nice if, with the technology that we have now, lives and where people could post stuff, but you can't post live hunting on YouTube or Facebook. But
Right.
a lot of these people that probably are recording while they're using your grunt calls and duck calls, probably them videos probably never make it out on the internet because they don't have a platform to put them on.
That's true.
Except the guys with the cameras that's walking around with them. So here's a picture that I got pulled up that it looks like your display that you had at the show.
Yeah, that's
So
my boat.
how many days were you there?
3 days.
3 days?
Yeah, show started Friday at 3 p.m. and run till Sunday at 5.
How many duck calls and grunt calls did you hear in the background?
Other than the ones I was doing, there wasn't nobody else. There was
Really?
one other booth a few rows back selling duck calls. And we went back and forth quite a few times. As soon as they'd start, I'd start. Kind
We
of like
have
two
the
old men bickering.
we have the Carolina. I think it's called Carolina. I cannot think of it. It's in Columbia every year. It's usually a weekend before turkey season. I think it's the Sportsman Classic. I think it's the name of it. Oh man, when you walk in there, is literally the week before turkey season, and you hear turkey calls. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like
There
you
was,
walked into a concert of turkey calls.
I used to do the turkey rama in Perry, Georgia every year, and that's the way it was. There must have been 40 or 50 different turkey call vendors in there, and I was the only one with duck calls.
Well, I mean that probably right there probably was a niche there.
Yeah, it was. And you'd be surprised. It was always held in February. You'd be surprised the people that would come by and buy duck calls at a turkey show.
Oh, I can imagine because when you're a hunter, you're always thinking about that season. And a friend of
Yeah,
mine, he just popped in. And he said he likes your logo, and I'm always talking about that to him. I'm like, man, I'm ready to go duck hunting. He's like, it just ended. I'm like, I'm ready to go duck hunting. He's like,
it's an
it's
addiction. Once it gets in your blood, the day after season closes, you start craving it, missing it, and
that's exactly
it
right. And then the only
makes
thing
you.
you can look forward to is turkey season.
And I hadn't turkey hunted in. Well, I tell you, the last turkey I killed, was the day before Cheyenne was born, my youngest daughter, and that was 12 years ago.
Wow.
I
Well,
just,
out of the look that most of us had this past year turkey hunting, I don't think you missed anything because all we saw was hens and a bunch of jakes, and you hear them gobble, and as soon as their feet hit the ground, that was it. I don't know what one year made a difference. I don't know if it's the weather or what, but this year was not a successful turkey year, at least for me, and I know a bunch of other people.
I've heard the same thing from a lot of different people, but springtime, I kind of gave up on the turkey hunting because of the call business. That's my busiest time of the year as far as being in the shop. I need to be out here building calls before the fall. I need to get as many
Right.
done as I can in spring and summer. And usually the show season don't start till like July, August, and September. So I need to get everything I can build then, before the show season starts. Because like I said,
I don't recall seeing a whole lot of deer calls at the Carolina Sportsman.
well, as most people don't. I'm one of the few that makes handmade deer calls. I don't know why nobody else does it. I'm glad they don't, to be honest with you. I've seen a few people make some, but on Facebook, but they're nothing. They're not making as many of them as I am.
I was looking for. I know it's on Instagram. I know you didn't post it, but there was a turkey walking around at this show. Tell me
Uh,
about this turkey because it was not a remote control turkey for what I saw. It was a
it was
live
a real
turkey.
turkey. So the guys from Sheffield's cover scent, we always get booths adjoining each other.
Uh huh.
Me, Casey Sheffield, and Kyle Hines for years have had booths beside each other, and we're just close friends. They're from Palaca, Florida. Well, me and Kyle are sitting there in the booth talking, and I happen to look up, and there's these three ladies coming by my booth, but they act like they're jockeying something. They're all three kind of dancing around like they're trying to herd something, and then the turkey gobbles. So I hopped up and looked over my booth, and there's this tom turkey strutting down through the aisle. And I told Kyle about it, and Kyle said, "No way." I said, "Well, that's the gobble you just heard." So Kyle actually shot the video, and I
Really?
think Casey Sheffield posted it on his Instagram page. And it's in, if you go back to my page,
All right.
where Robert Arrington, that picture of deer meat for dinner, there should be two pictures, one of deer meat, one of seat one, and then the video of the turkey afterwards.
All right. I see him, but I don't see any like I can't click on anybody's like their name isn't highlighted for me to jump from one
It
page
should
to
be
another one.
you should be able to just swipe over to the second picture of the guys from seat one, and then the videos last.
There it is. All right. So let me share that screen back. All right. So let me start it over. So there's the turkey.
Yeah, that's him coming by my booth.
So
And Kyle,
obviously that's probably a farm raised turkey, but I have been
well,
around turkeys enough.
come
I
to
don't know
find
how
out,
you could I don't know how you could train a turkey to walk in between people like that. I mean, a lot of
well,
them are pretty aggressive.
a lady, I posted that same group of pictures on Facebook, and a lady commented on it, and she was from the Montgomery Zoo, and said that was, she called the turkey's name, and I can't remember what she said it was, but that was their ambassador from the Montgomery Zoo, and he just struts around like that. So they brought him Saturday and Sunday,
I
and
mean,
he
that's just
walked through the
crazy.
show like that. And you see the ladies kind of following along behind him.
Right.
Those are I guess his handlers or something. I don't know, but it was crazy to see.
Did he ever stop and like strut or
Well,
do
he strutted
more
the whole
gobbles?
time. and there was on the aisle behind me. There was a guy, I can't remember his name. I talked to the man that made handmade turkey calls. So the turkey got around there, and this guy started calling to him and calling at him and all, and he was steady gobbling at him. Just all kind of crazy mess.
I just think,
stop
oh
doing
yeah,
what they're doing and look at him.
yeah, because don't nobody. I mean, he's just walking around like he's a trained dog or something. I mean,
Yeah,
you know, I could see an animal like a chicken or something. You ain't gonna get them to do nothing, but you get a handful of food or something, and they'll follow you. No, he has the people trained to follow him.
follow him around. That's exactly
Yeah,
right.
I mean, it's like the roles are reversed. He's like, no,
Yeah.
you follow me around, human.
Yep. And you like I said, you see the handlers right there with him. Those three ladies.
I mean, he's probably living his best life too. I'm sure he's getting some extra corn and all kind of good food.
He's living life.
I mean, that's crazy. I saw that from this weekend. I was like, I had to do a triple take because I had to look first to make sure it wasn't fake, like some kind of remote control kind of, some new hunting decoy or something. Because it was at a show, so I thought maybe since it was at a show, some new decoys come out. And at first I was like, look at this robot remote control, and then it turned. And I was like, wait a minute, that's a real turkey walking around.
Yep, just a real turkey walking around strutting his stuff.
I mean, that's pretty impressive.
Yep.
So this one here, this one on Instagram here, I should be able to play it. This was off of Sportsman TV.
That's off North American Whitetail.
How long ago was this?
That was this season, so that was last deer season. That's
Rob. You know where that was filmed at?
That was filmed at the Bar J Ranch in Beeville, Texas, that he manages.
We would call that a pretty nice buck here, and I'm sure they probably like that too. But I'm sure there's probably some massive ones out there, ain't there?
Yeah, he showed me trail cam pictures of deer.
I mean, it starts the video off with a nice buck, and then these Instagrams. Oh, he was big and bad until that guy shows up. He's even bigger than the first one.
And to them, at the Bar J, that's a cull.
Yeah, Rob, that's
Rob don't get to kill the trophy bucks. He has to, because he's the manager. He has to shoot the culls.
Right. I mean, that's probably like a terrible job. I mean, who would want that?
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, now that one's up in front picture there. I mean, that's a huge rack.
Yeah, that's a dang good deer. And you can see his orange grunt call.
Right. I had to stop that before one of the lives would get mad. YouTube done took my video down.
Yeah.
But I'm just scrolling through some pictures here. Here's another video.
That's last season. That's the first episode of North American Whitetail this year. That's Haynes Shelton. I actually had the opportunity to meet Haynes 2 years ago. Really great guy.
I mean, wouldn't you just like to have that running around in your backyard? Which I'm sure down there in Georgia, y'all got some pretty nice size ones too.
We got decent bucks around here.
You see any more videos coming when I'm coming through? Tell me to stop if you can see them. That looks like a bad day tractor stuck.
Yeah, that was me.
Yeah, when you get a 4-wheel drive tractor stuck, that's pretty bad. What'd you have to do? You used a bucket to get out?
I tried to get it out with a bucket, and it wasn't moving it. So what happened is the grapple caught an oak tree as I made that turn, As soon as I hit that oak tree, the tires just sunk down.
Is
So I
that
ended
a
up having to get a friend of mine to bring a 200 horsepower tractor over and pull it out.
40 horse?
That was a little 30 horse.
Oh, I got one just almost like that. I got a 50 horse, and you talking about that grappler on the front. You said you caught it on the tree. I about made that same mistake. Well, I didn't about make it. I did make it. I caught something. I caught something, and it rolled the bucket, which then blew the hydraulic line because the build up pressure because I
Yeah.
was going forward. Yeah, that was a bad day. Hydraulic fluid everywhere. Yeah, there's all kind of calls on there on your Instagram.
Yeah, there it is. And I got
So
it
what else?
set to where
Go
everyone
ahead.
I post on Facebook goes posts on my Instagram at the same time.
So I clicked on the hunting pictures here. It says friends and family of the Duck Creek calls. So
That's
we can
my
go.
buddy Pete. He lives over in Charleston, South Carolina. That was a deer he killed last year in Illinois.
Wow. And you can, which you probably can't see on your phone there, but you could tell where he's either been rubbing or fighting on that rack there.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
And that's my buddy Casey Sheffield and his brother. That's the one they killed in Kentucky last year. I think his brother actually killed it. That's Rob Hughes' daughter Arlie with her
Yep. And
first.
you can see that pink collar in the background.
Yeah.
So she took that one.
Yeah, that was Arlie's first deer.
Wow. That's crazy. I didn't shoot my first buck, sadly, till last year. So, 42 before I got my first buck. And just by not seeing her whole picture, I'm probably going to say maybe 13-year-old taking out a.
11.
Yeah, 11. So thanks for making it even worse. I mean, most people.
You got to realize too now. Her daddy works for Buck Forge Oats.
Well, okay.
He's a wildlife biologist. He manages the Bar J Ranch, and he's studied.
That makes it better.
Studied under Dr. Deer, so I mean, he should know more about deer than most of us do.
Yeah.
And there's Rob.
I mean, look at the size of that. I don't know if that is that an adult standing behind there, or is that like a young?
I think that's Pan Pot.
I was hoping that might be like a youth because you look at that person's hands, and that rack takes up the whole hand. That's pretty cool, and it's got that kickoff there too. Like it growing out. Don't even look like it's attached. Look like it's growing out all by itself.
Yeah, I think that's one Stan Potts killed last year. And that's definitely Stan Potts. And that was killed in Burke County on my hunting club. My buddy Mike Salimi killed that last year. And then Rob Hughes and Dr. Deer. That deer, Doc killed that deer last year with a crossbow 60-something days out of open heart surgery.
Really?
Yeah, he had open heart surgery, and that was the first time he got the deer hunt after the surgery.
I bet his heartbeat was pretty tachycardia.
Yeah. And then that's Casey Sheffield in Kentucky. He makes some of the best cover scent ever. His killer persimmon cover scent is the bomb.
Let's go back to it.
It tracked me all the way to the base of the stand.
Really?
Yeah.
So you stand behind his product, huh?
I stand behind it. Everything Casey bakes 100%.
So who is he again?
Casey Sheffield. He owns Sheffield's cover scent.
So there you go. You said it live, so you get 10% royalty on it. I was here. I heard it. So who's he?
That's Dr. Deer, Dr. James Kroll.
And how long has he been doing that, you said?
He's been living and studying whitetail deer for 50 years.
And you go out there every year, right?
Yeah, I go out to his research facility every March and spend 4 or 5 days out there with him.
He probably forgets. He probably forgets more than what you probably could pick up from him in a week.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. The cool thing about going out there with Doc is his little teaching moments. You're riding around on the Ranger with him, and he just stops and gets out and pulls a leaf off a tree, comes back and hands it to me, and says, "Chris, do you know what this is?" "No, sir." And he gives me the whole scientific spiel of what this tree is, the type of acres it produces, where it's native to, the whole 9 yards. And that's worth the ride to Texas every year just to learn stuff like that from him.
Yeah, I can't promise you I'm that smart on probably anything.
I'm not. He's forgotten more than we'll ever learn. I promise you.
I mean, that right there is about what you're doing right there. The whole thing, just making smiles, making memories. That's what hunting's all about anyway. Because you were saying earlier how you got 4 and you couldn't pick. You had a hard time picking which kids you're going to take that day, and I understand because we all want to say, "Hey, let's take our kids go hunting," but that is not an easy task.
No, it's not. But
you,
yeah,
you end up carrying everything, but it's worth it.
For the most part, Bethany was my middle daughter. Was the one that was adamant. She was going with Daddy wherever he went. She was in my hip pocket from the time she come into this world. She's 22 now. 20, finna be 23 this month. She's been with me just about everywhere I've ever went.
Yeah, that's something to cherish there for sure.
Oh yeah, she grades on my nerves sometimes. I want to choke her little butt, but she's still my heart. She's still with me everywhere I go.
I try to take mine as much as I can. I love duck hunting. The cold, it's not easy to take a 8, 10-year-old,
Oh no,
11.
it's not.
It's not easy. And I try to take them deer hunting, and you try to tell them to whisper, but my daughter this year, she's fixing to be 13 in March, so I guess she's 12. She's like, "Daddy, I want to shoot one this year. I want to shoot one." So
yeah.
I don't really have a place for any more deer meat, but whenever she's not dancing, we're going to try to attempt to for her to take one out this year.
Exactly. And I mean,
she might not be ready for that 12 gauge, but
I've killed more deer than most people in this world. If I never kill another one, the pure joy of sitting watching my children kill deer or my wife tickles me more than anything in the world. I mean, with that buck with my youngest daughter, Cheyenne, that was just, we went through the entire range of emotions with that deer. From the time she's laid eyes on it to the time we finally put our hands on it, we went from crying, screaming, upset, to tears of joy. And to see your little girl that happy, man, that's the greatest feeling in the world. That means more to me than any deer I've ever shot.
That's right. There's a video on the internet, on Instagram and stuff, and everybody's copying it. But it's saying like the only person you want to see succeed or do better than you is your kid. You don't want to get beat by anybody else, but you want to see your kid beat you and do better. And that's a true story.
Like my middle daughter, Bethany, she can walk on a dove field and she'll have her limit before everybody else on the field. She will be the first to kill her limit and be off the field every Saturday.
Wow.
She likes to brag about it. Hey, Daddy, I got my limit before you do. But That don't bother me.
But
That tickles me more than anything that my child can shoot a shotgun better than most grown men can.
statistically, women can shoot better. That's my wife would do that too. She'd be like, "I can outshoot you in a pistol," and I'm like, "But statistically, all women can outshoot men."
Pretty much, yeah.
Y'all
That's the
got
truth.
better. Y'all got better eye coordination skills than men.
They got more patience than most of us do too.
Well, that's probably because they're putting up with us. But I'm just putting that out there.
Well, that's how they learn their patience so well, putting up with us.
That's patience is a big word. I tell you, it's hard. Yeah. It's hard. That is something. I don't know. I guess the older you get, the better you get at it. Or I guess the older you get, maybe you have less of
certain things. Sometimes my patience runs really thin on stupid stuff that shouldn't bother me. Other times, like with the kids, it's like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah. I've now started trying to like at least point it out, be like, all right, kids, my patience are really thin. Let's do something different today.
Yep.
But yeah, I hope my little girl is able to take one out this year. I'm going anytime she dances a lot. She loves competition dancing and whenever it ain't, she gonna be up in that stand. But man, I got a friend that we go duck hunting every year on youth day. He's got a pond that's, for the most part, every time we go, we're guaranteed gonna see ducks. And it is I sit with my daughter and he usually sits with my son. And this year 2 Magansers flew in and I'm like, let's let them get it. And they both shot. And I mean, it was the perfect shot. The bird was on the water and the pellets sprayed over the water. And I'm up here and then the birds fly off. Both of them. They both shot. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. I mean, just like what you said, y'all went through the joys of getting there, setting up. The birds come in, you getting your heart racing. They shoot. They actually hit the ducks, but I guess it was the distance, and plus one had a 410 and the other one had a 20 gauge. But then the letdown. But they still talk about it. You know when I shot that duck and it flew away. Yeah, I remember. And then my little girl be like, Daddy, it wasn't just a little bit after that. And them geese flew in, and I didn't kill the geese, but I knocked a couple feathers off. Like, yeah, they still remember that. So I'm still waiting for them to get their first ducks.
And that'll be something they'll never forget. I mean,
absolutely. They always ask, hey, are we gonna mount them? Absolutely.
Playing video games, they remember hunting and fishing and stuff like that with their daddy.
Correct.
That sticks with them for a lifetime.
So, like I said, 4 years ago was the first time I ever went duck hunting, and 3 years ago, it may be 4, but I'm pretty sure it was 3. The first time I ever went turkey hunting. I grew up, most like probably everybody else did. Springs industry. I'm sure you probably heard of Springs. They were all over South Carolina and in Georgia. But when you grew up, you thought you was going to work at Springs, and that was about it. So my father deer hunted, and when I was young, it's not like today. I don't recall 30, 35 years ago anybody hunting out of two-person stands. They were just a lot of conduit. It was handmade conduit deer stands. I mean, that's pretty much, even the climbers were, people had jigs that were conduit and they were just making their own. It wasn't no 2 people. So when I was 7,
back in the 80s, 70s and 80s, when I started hunting, that made deer stands. All of ours were built in the crotch of a tree, or Daddy drove cotton spindles in a tree and we climbed up cotton spindles.
Right. So
he made when you're about a 2x4s.
And you see a lot of them still in the
those things to sit in my life.
And you still see a lot of them in the woods today, and you walk by them, you're like, man, could you imagine the memories that was in that tree or something? But being 8 years old
Yep.
and going to be dumped in the middle of the woods, and there was no cell phones. Uh, it got dark, and
Right.
you were like, well, is he coming to get me, or am I out here by myself?
Yep.
But
That's exactly right. You were at Daddy's mercy. When Daddy decided to come back, you left.
absolutely, because you never know. Even though it got a little bit dark, he might have saw something, and he wasn't going to scare him or spook him.
Yeah.
He's going to let him go off before he came down. Well, at that time when you were 8 years old, you done thought the end of the world done happened. He done fell out of the stand. He ain't coming to get me. I'm going to have to survive. But I love the fact that they have, two-person stands now. So I could put them beside me, and, you can at least see each other, and you be like, all right, you can at least do hand signals and point. Where when I was a kid, that was the reason why I never liked deer hunting.
Yeah. It's more enjoyable now for you and your kids because you're right there with them. You get to experience every step of it with the kid. And
absolutely.
Yeah, you can't beat that. You can't replace that with anything else. That
No.
experience and that time spent with your kids is just, I don't know, you can't put a price tag on it. No
You
way,
can't.
shape, or form.
And what I was saying before I saw a squirrel and went down the squirrel track there, 4 years ago, I started turkey hunting. It was 2 years ago. I took my son on youth day because youth day comes in before it's the state youth day. It could be federal, I'm not sure, but it's at least youth day before regular turkey season comes in. And I took him, and he was so tired and sleepy, and he fell asleep in my arms, and we sitting there, and before the sun comes up, I took a picture of it, and I got it, like what you were saying, just memories. And when the sun comes up, I hear this turkey gobbling. I wake him up, and I start calling, and nothing. And that turkey popped his head up out of the field, and my son was able to shoot that turkey. And he talks about that turkey all the time. He's like, I shot the first turkey. I shot one before you did. He's like, I can't wait to go turkey hunting. And since then, this year we went too, and we didn't have no luck on youth day, but he will never forget that turkey.
No, he won't. 50 years from now, he'll still remember that turkey sitting with his daddy.
Yep. So that's what I try to do. I try to make the memories as much as I can. And duck season is a little bit harder because of the temperature. But any youth days or any days that I could get out there and make sure that buddy heater is warm enough for them, I take them. And that's one reason I like duck hunting so much, because I could take them out there duck hunting, turn the buddy heater on for them in our blind, and I don't have to worry about them smelling. You could carry on conversations. Yeah.
You can carry on a conversation. You can talk to them. You can move around. They don't have to sit perfectly still until you see ducks.
Right.
So, duck is a little bit easier on a kid and can be more enjoyable for them than sitting in a cold deer stand having to be perfectly still.
I can only imagine
not being able to talk.
We're in South Carolina, about like you in Georgia. It ain't like we got massive amounts of birds. So, you get one or two birds, and that's about all you're going to see. I can only imagine taking my kids to like Arkansas or Oklahoma or Nebraska, all these in the flyway over in the central flyway.
Yeah.
I imagine they would be just as excited as like a 43-year-old, like look like a kid in a candy store, like, oh my goodness, where's all these birds?
That's the way Bethany was in Arkansas. She was just, the first couple trips she ever went, she was losing her mind at all the ducks and geese and stuff flying around. And when they finally worked into the hole and she got to shoot, and you couldn't tell her nothing. She still talks about it every day, 10 years later.
I was shooting a video on the channel and I had the 12 gauge out and my little boy was holding it. I'm like, nah, he got to do that lean to hold it. I'm like, you ain't ready yet for the 12 gauge. But
Yeah.
he was like, I'm going to Texas in November to goose hunt. And he's like, I want to go. I'm like, buddy, you're not ready yet. I can't wait to the day that I could take him out on some of these, trips, because I mean, you can't bring your child along because obviously you're going to have to pay for it. And
Right.
he's not ready yet to spend $400 or $500 a day to go on these guided trips. But
Yeah.
I can't wait.
You want to wait till they can enjoy the full experience.
All right.
Not sleeping and miserable. That's the last thing you want to do is haul them halfway across the country and they're miserable the whole time.
That's true.
I never had to worry about that with Bethany because you put her in the truck a mile outside the driveway, she was asleep. And she slept all the way to Arkansas every trip. That's how
one of my pictures were for this past turkey season. My little boy was like, I want to go. And I told him to go get ready and stand by the door. And when I came back in there, he was at the door on the floor asleep. And I took a picture of it. And I made the comment of, well, I told him to go get by the door, and he was knocked out cold. So he went with me. He did exactly what he was told to do.
Yep.
So anything new coming out? Anything you working on?
Well, not as far as different calls. I mean, I'll have an ad in North American Whitetail Magazine starting in October, November, and December.
Is this our first time, or is this something you done previous?
No, this is my first time. And
wow, so are you going to be ready for that overload?
I'm trying to stay ahead. I hope I can be. I've got right around 200 grunt calls made right now, and enough to finish 500 more on the shelf.
Wow.
So I've got a bunch up there on the shelf I'm looking at now. It's already died and stabilized, just needs to be turned. And that's pretty much what I'll do up until opening day of deer season.
Any other shows you're going to be attending this year?
No, I don't. I only planned on doing the Buckmaster show this year because we'd never done it before, and me and Casey wanted to try it, so we both agreed to just try this one this year and see how it went. And it went so well, we went ahead and booked our booze again next year.
So you heard it firsthand where he's going to be next year. So by that time, the ad's going to be out. He's going to be famous, and he'll be signing autographs next year.
I doubt that. Well, I do sign and date every call. So if you buy a call from me, you get an autograph too.
So right now, if you buy a call, his autograph is only worth the postage stamp. Next year, it'll be worth $100.
I hope one day when I'm dead and gone, my calls will be traded and sold for lots of money. But
hey, you never know. Some of these old wooden calls that are handed down for duck hunting over generations, and especially
they're worth
like
a lot of money now.
And like you said, that grunt call, all the ones I ever seen are plastic. It's got the little horn on it. You bend it back like that. So
yeah.
I mean, other than dropping it in the woods and it rotting or something catching it on fire, I mean, it's going to last for a long time if you take care of it.
Well, I've always stood behind them. So if you buy a grunt call from me or any call from me, you break it, you tear it up, your fault, my fault, I don't care. I'll fix it or replace it. If I can't fix it, I'll give you another one. I want it to be the last call you ever buy.
Well, that's, and I lost you there. Let's see where. Yeah, lost his connection. I'm sure he'll be back. That's something to stand by there. You heard it from the man. He wants that to be the last call that you ever buy. I mean, you make a one-time purchase. That's pretty impressive. So as he joins us back here in just a few minutes, I'm sure he's going to get the connection. Uh, we're talking. If you just joining us on the YouTube Live, Facebook Live, we're talking with Duck Creek Calls. He must have lost the signal. He was out in his shop working. Give him a second, get signal back. But go back and watch. If you just joining now, go back and watch the beginning of this live. Very impressive man. He's got a lot of going on with calls. We talk about the Buckmaster show that he just attended. And like I said, if you just watching this, go back and watch it. We talk about a live turkey that's going through the vending hall, which is crazy. If you haven't seen that on Instagram, definitely go check that out. And keep watching these lives because I've been contacting other people. I got a bunch lined up. I can't say that it's every week at this moment, but at least I'm trying to get one alive every week with different people all over the country. So keep checking these lives out. If you go to the live tab on YouTube, it shows you upcoming shows. Right now, I don't have anything scheduled, but there is some great stuff in the background in the works. Some really good stuff coming up. That's all I can say. And like I said, this deer season is going to be awesome. It's going to be 10 times better than last year because I didn't post hardly any videos. So we can only go up from there. And this duck season is going to be spectacular. That's all I can say. He hasn't joined us back yet. So I'm taking it that his cell phone must have died being online. So we're going to give him another 5 minutes to get back online here. If not, I'll give out some of his information. I'm going to pull this up here while we're waiting on him to come back. So here is his website, Duck Creek Custom Calls. Is duckcreekcc.com. So go check that out. His name is Chris Riggs on Instagram. We'll scroll back up to the top here. So here is his Instagram, Duck Creek Custom Calls. He's on Facebook too. So definitely go check that out. He is making a awesome wood duck calls and deer grunt calls. So go check him out. Share this video. If you watch any of it, at least hit the like button for me. That would help me out. I would greatly appreciate it if you shared my lives. If you follow along on Facebook Live, share them with your friends, put it in groups. After this video is live, there will be a link in the YouTube. You can share it. So if you know somebody that deer hunts and wants to know more about his calls, share that link. Share it into your deer hunting groups. Let people know about his calls. So I think that might be the end of it. I'd be willing to say I bet his cell phone battery died. So I appreciate every one of y'all checking in. We're probably gonna have him on again. He's definitely got a story to tell. We might check back in with him again this time next year after that Buckmaster show. But I'm gonna close this out here. So go check out my sponsors across the bottom. Without them, this wouldn't be possible. Without the funding of my wife, also wouldn't be possible. So I appreciate everybody joining the live, and we'll catch you next time. See you.